evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Beyond the Summit. We've got some more Chinese Dota for you this evening. We've got a new tournament kicking off, WVW. And it's a quick little tournament here that we'll be doing the coverage for. We did just flash the brackets on the weight screen and, well, a little production value getting things set up here. But our first match of the night is underway. I am Zyori, and I will be joined by Basekip for the first time. Basekip, what's up, buddy?
Not much. How about you?
Not much either. Scrambling to get all the overlays set up for this tournament, but other than that, looking excited for some more, or feeling excited for some more Chinese Dota, rather.
Yeah, should be good. Always fun to watch, for sure.
Yeah, most of the time at least. Let's hop straight into the draft here as, wow, this draft is cruising. So, we've got HGT versus DT for our first match, and it's just two quick best-of-ones, and then there's a good 6-hour break, and then there's another two best-of-ones that Gods will be covering. So it's sort of an interesting format, but only two quick games for us this evening, my friend.
Okay, and see, I checked the schedule and I was like, oh, is this ECL? But no, this is a different competition entirely. I think these two teams are also playing each other later on today for ECL, so I guess have a little bit of a rivalry going on over the course of the day.
Yeah, these teams have definitely played each other a fair bit, and okay, looks like hopefully that fixes our audio issues here. But yeah, this is a totally different tournament. This is actually the very first matches of this tournament. This is the WVW National Electronic Sports Classic. China's top teams gather to compete for a prize of $25,000. So it's a pretty nice little tournament here. But let's talk about this draft a little bit. It was a first pick Centaur coming out for Dreamtime. HGT grabbed themselves the Ancient Apparition and the Invoker. And of course, Dreamtime here did second pick their Visage. Pretty straightforward picks to get things started. Sand King banned out in the first phase, but he's all the rage in the Chinese scene right now.
Yeah, I think that Sand King ban would be the only thing that I would point to as a little bit different. They picked Centaur and they chose to leave Invoker in the pool, so not too surprised to see HGT pick that up. Always nice to have, especially Coswex against the Centaur. And DT just ban out Clockwork and Lifestealer, interestingly enough. I mean, HGT do definitely need an offlaner and a carry, but these are two heroes that I feel aren't particularly impressive in the current meta. Like Clockwork's still okay, Lifestealer's still okay. But they are kind of shadows of their former selves a little bit.
Yeah, sorry, I'm having minor tech. Apparently, chat says I sound like Zordon, and I'm not really sure what the source of that is. We just had to reformat this production computer when the hard drives died, so some of our settings are running astray here, and now they say echo fixed. Okay.
Okay, so you're echoing, but I'm not, or are we both?
No,
echoing?
I think it was the camera screen. We have a 2-minute delay, so I'm like kind of retroactively here. I think I need to mute the camera on the full screen camera shot. So, all right, sorry about that, folks. I will deal with that after the match. So, okay. Anyway, back into this. Yeah, I wouldn't be so confident that Invoker will be Quaswex. That's like what everyone's doing in the West, but in the East, the last few Invokers I've seen in WPC all have gone for Exort, and they've done more of kind of a global strategy, like a Shadow Demon setup. We won't see that here, but even with a Rubik Ancient Apparition, if you can telekinesis into Cold Feet, makes for pretty easy Sunstrike. So I wouldn't assume that it's a Quaswex right out of the gate.
Yeah, the other thing as well, I think we have been seeing the Quas Exort in the West. I remember, I think it was Team Liquid in a series that they lost, but they had the Ancient Apparition and a Quas Exort Invoker. And the game, like, they were losing, but they were just sniping people with Sunstrike plus Ice Blast all the time. Yeah. But it was pretty entertaining to watch. It, keeps the casters on their toes for sure as well.
Yeah, HGT may also want to consider a Nyx Assassin pick here. He hasn't been banned out, and he kind of works well with that strategy you're talking about, where Nyx can open with a Vendetta and Impale. Usually that can set up for a pretty easy Ice Blast, and then a relatively easy Sunstrike as well, one of those kind of ganker types, so perhaps they'll fourth pick him here. DT did grab a Templar Assassin with their third pick.
Yeah, TA is just always really nice to have against Invoker. The matchup isn't nearly as skewed as it used to be, because Invoker obviously has a second spell from level 3 now. And before, he only had access to one, so it was made life a lot more difficult, but still a really nice hero to have. And if you play the first couple of waves right as TA, you set yourself up for the lane to go really smoothly.
Yeah, very momentum based, and Centaur is also all the rage right now. He's been first picked or first banned, and I think almost every WPC game I've casted, there's been a few where he's slipped through to like third ban, third pick territory, but teams are just absolutely loving the Centaur for his initiation, the Stampede, its defensive capabilities, and he's just all around pretty solid right now.
Yeah, he's really good, and I think especially when you start comparing, say, Centaur to Clockwork, and this is something I brought up a little bit before in, I think, Cast with Gods. And the thing with the Clockwork is that he can only really be a threat when he's moving around or when he's off the map. But the fact that Stampede is global means that the Centaur can be quite comfortably just sitting farming in a free lane and still be contributing to the ganks with the supports. And that means that even though he's, a bit more farm dependent than, say, someone like a Clockwork, he does pretty much need to get his Blink Dagger up. He can afford to be AFK farming for for 4 or 5 minutes to get that blink and still be extremely impactful. So just great to have.
Yeah, and his lane presence isn't so bad either. Return does a surprising amount of damage early on, and for some of those pretty squishy supports, harassing him is just not really a viable option. But we will see these fourth picks come out. Nature's Prophet, the fourth choice for HGT, and obviously Dreamtime here. They grab the Shadow Demon to pair with their Visage. So kind of an interesting draft so far for both sides. HGT gearing up for a little more push. If it is that Exort Invoker, pairs well for the Rat Dota of Nature's Prophet.
Yeah, definitely lots of global ganking potential. They've got Breath of Nature, potentially Sunstrike, Ice Blast on top of that. And the one, I guess, opportunity that DT do have here is that they can okay, never mind. I was going to say they could maybe try and sneak underneath the timing of HGT a little bit if HGT ended up going for a slightly greedy carry. So if they'd been greedy on the Viper, Invoker and Nature's Prophet are already very greedy as far as 2 and 3 positions are concerned. They both want to farm a Midas. They're both sort of not... They're relevant in the mid-game, but it's towards the tail end of the mid-game that they really come online, and that gives a team like Dreamtime the opportunity to go for a mech carrier in the safe lane and just try and hammer down the tier 1 really quickly, start grouping up with the mech, just go for, Treads, Drum, Yasha on your TA, and just close out the game before the Invoker and the Prophet are too relevant. But the Viper pickup for HGT is nice because it gives them at least someone that can fight in the early to mid game, even if it is going to end up being probably their safe lane farmer. We'll see. Could also be safe lane Invoker.
Yeah, I really agree about that early mech against an Ancient Apparition because, one, he doesn't usually hit level 6 that quickly, and also, mech is just not that bad against AA. It gets a bad rap because, obviously, you can't use it when Ice Blast is on, but there's always that window where Ice Blast is on cooldown and the duration is expired, and as long as you don't shatter, you can mech back up to a decent level of hit points. So it changes the way you use mech. You can't just hit that hotkey willy-nilly, but it still can be pretty potent against the Ancient Apparition. So, alright, let's get rolling here. Slark was the final pick for DT. We didn't make too much mention of it, but fits into that kind of strategy we're talking about here, where before HGT really come online, DT will be looking to take a pretty decent mid-game advantage.
And DT moving up as 3 to do what looks like is a little bit of warding right now, but HGT, right move from them. They know with their kind of lineup, especially if they want to run defensive, that they're going to need access to their pulls and access to their jungle, especially if the Nature's Prophet has to leave bot. So they're just going to come over here, stand around, make sure that they try and scout out any of these support movements. And I'm not sure if DT are actually going to be tri-laning for very long. The benefit of this kind of tri-lane, where your core farmer is basically an off-lane hero anyway, if things go bad in the first minute and a half, they can just immediately ditch and then start roaming on the other lanes and just apply pressure elsewhere. So we'll see if this is just maybe a first blood attempt, or if they are going to be sticking around for too long.
They'll have their work cut out for them if they want to try and get a first blood here, with 3 ranged heroes on the side of HGT and that pesky chilling touch from the Ancient Apparition. They'll be putting out a lot of damage, and I'm not sure that's something that DT really have the tools to tango with. They don't have much sustain. Dazzle, Shadow Demon are pretty good, but Disruption doesn't do a terribly large amount of damage, so We'll see how it works for him. Let's introduce these rosters, though, as we will move into a pause to get things started. On the Radiant side, we will have Dream Time. It will be Team DT. XDD playing on the Slark in the solo safe lane. In the mid, we'll have Air on the solo Templar Assassin. And up top, it will be that aggressive tri-lane. Dreamy U on the Shadow Demon, Super on the Visage. And it will be In July playing on this Centaur War Runner.
And over on HGT, on the Ancient Apparition, we've got Pretty Haw. On the Rubik, we've got ZSMJ, who I believe is the team captain at the moment. We've got Kaka on the Invoker. We've got 121 heading towards mid as the Viper. And that's going to leave XTT on the offlane Nature's Prophet. Not a hell of a lot of regen for him, so I think that they weren't really anticipating this aggressive tri-lane. And this could end up working out pretty well for DT. We'll see. They have left their Templar Assassin at the mercy of a Viper mid, which is not the best matchup.
Yeah, that's to say the least. I think Viper should do pretty well against this Templar Assassin. He's got plenty of damage over times to try and cut through that refraction, and he's got a lot of regen as well. He's got a set of tangos and 2 pooled tangos. TA on a similar front, just 1 less pooled tango, both of them starting with the Wraith Band here. Looks like Nature's Prophet will reconnect, so we should have this game underway pretty quickly here.
The one trick with these mid matchups against Viper, and I guess in particular the TA, is if you're really good with your side blades and you can clear the wave quite quickly whenever the Viper gives you an opportunity to go up, then so long as your wave is always pushing into the Viper, you can actually secure a little bit of farm. The big problem is if you let him get in between you and the creep wave and you can't push it out, then he'll just keep it in place and non-stop harass. So again, it's similar to talking about how the matchup would have been against the Invoker, but in this case it's much more about just trying to spam out the wave, get what CS you can, and then that does give you a little bit of rune control as well.
Yeah, we will see a ward countered here in the top lane. There was a Radiant Sentry that the Dire were able to take out, or pardon me, there was a Radiant Observer that this Dire Sentry did just take out. So a small victory for HGT out of the gate. They will maintain this tri-lane on tri-lane here as DT seem pretty confident. But like I mentioned, I worry about this chilling touch harass. We'll see Ancient Apparition use it already. And there's a fair bit of crowd control here as well between the Rubik and the Invoker once he grabs that cold snap. I worry for DT in this tri-lane.
Yeah, and worth mentioning that the Visage only has 10% base resist as well, so that extra chilling touch magical damage is just going to tear him to shreds if he gets out of position.
Yeah, definitely. So, Invoker, not the ideal tri-lane hero, which is a little bit unfortunate for HGT, but at least with these 2 heroes babysitting him, he'll be a little bit safer and can farm a bit easier. But really a hero that benefits from that experience, and if the HGT supports can spend some time out of the lane, which they're already doing, that'll be good news for them. It will be a 2-man rotation towards the mid. They are smoked up, and they are hungry for blood. Looks like Templar Assassin will be in their sights. And here we go. They'll wrap around from the north side. Viper starts harassing at Air, but good positioning on the south side of the tower. Will make it back to the trees. And first smoke gank for the Dire, unsuccessful.
Yeah, a little bit of a curious smoke. They moved as fast as they possibly could to make it less suspicious, but still not going to work it in the end. Fortunately, they're there to camp at the 2-minute rune, so a minor victory for them. And there's not a whole lot to accomplish in the lane right now either, besides just standing around and staring one another down. I don't think... They do have 1 more sentry, so they might be able to try and deward their pull camp and start getting things going back in the right direction, but with the changes to the sentry radius now, you can't guarantee a deward with 1 sentry, so looks like they're just going to go back to the lane.
Yep, pretty quiet early game to get things going. Looks like Centaur doing very well in last hits. He is 12-0 against the surprisingly low Invoker, who's only 4-2 right now, so he is definitely struggling in last hits. He got a little bit of solo experience when the supports left the lane, just about to hit level 3, but In July getting the better of him right now. And we see Dreamy U utilizing that hard camp pull as the wave comes in and getting a little bit of lane control here for the Radiant side. So all things considered, I think DT are doing quite well up here in the top. They've got a very minor golden experience lead to get things started. But still a pretty even early game.
Too bad.
Okay, the main point is just that the pull camp is still blocked out. Otherwise, HGT would be building up an incremental advantage as this lane went on, and eventually they would be able to actually start going on the aggressive a little bit. But so long as things sort of stay in a stalemate as far as levels are concerned, then I don't know if either team has at least the spells advantage as far as finding kills. It all comes down to positioning, and they're both playing pretty defensively.
Yeah, Invoker will be going for that Quas Wex like you were mentioning, but we'll see some setup here. Disruption has started off. Centaur looking to get in position, but he gets telekinesed back, and that should be enough to keep Kaka alive. A little bit of aggression coming out from DT, but not enough to secure the first blood.
And ZSMJ gonna go camp the 4-minute rune, just a regen spawning up on top. Other lanes looking pretty good for HGT. In fact, Viper's winning his lane just by a little bit. XTT doing very well against the Slark, who's just trying to soak level 6 right now, since he's actually chewed through all of his regen. So fast phase boots on the Prophet really paying off for him in this lane against a melee Slark.
Yep, absolutely. Makes it a little bit more difficult for this Slark to come up and pick up those stray last hits. Nature's Prophet just hits hard enough that he can completely zone him out here. And up top, looks like we'll see an engage come out. Telekinesis on the Centaur. He'll try and make it back to safety. Super around the backside, doing a little bit of damage to the Rubik. Trading blows across both sides, but DT, they do not come out ahead. That chilling touch doing some serious work from the Ancient Apparition. Still no first blood, but DT are looking a little worse for wear.
Yeah, they're almost completely out of regen. I guess on both sides, but the Invoker does still have a salve up. So the next exchange is probably going to force somebody out of the lane, and that's going to be the turning point where we'll probably have to start seeing either the DT supports or the HGT supports moving around a little bit. More likely the DT supports.
Yeah, Centaur does now have his Tranquil Boots up, so that'll give him a little bit of extra regen. So maybe the small edge that DT need. Centaur actually not grabbing that early value point in return either. He's going to do a 2-2-0 build at level 4, which isn't that strange, but pretty commonly we see that first point in return just because it's irritating to deal with in the lane. I guess against Ancient Apparition it doesn't make quite as much sense. Meanwhile in the mid lane though, Air in big trouble. He'll take a Viper Strike. ZSMJ rotating through. Telekinesis will be enough to shut him down, and Viper walks away 450 gold richer with the first kill on the board here at about the 6-minute mark.
Yeah, and solo lanes continue to just be pretty much outright wins for HGT. Prophet Ultimate used there as well for that kill on mid. That's normally a big turning point for the tri-lanes, but not going to be a big deal. And DT with a smoke, they saw that ZSMJ was over. Actually made it back to top lane, so this could be a little bit dangerous.
Yeah, there's the disruption coming out on Ancient Apparition. Telekinesis back on the Centaur. He'll still be in position for a hoof stomp, or will he? Getting slowed down. In July taking a lot of damage, but no, it will be Ancient Apparition who's first to fall. Centaur does a good bit of damage before he goes down, secures the kill on Rubik. Now it's Kaka versus the two supports who are both completely out of mana. He will chase down the Visage, it looks like. Does he have any mana himself? No, he does not. It will be a battle of right clicks. Super just looking to port out, and he will survive. So there you go. That'll tie it up 2-2.
I think it should have been more kills for HGT, honestly, but the Nature's Prophet used his teleportation to get back to bottom lane instead of a TP scroll, and that meant that he only had a TP scroll available in the lane to be able to TP top, and that meant that he couldn't catch anybody. So that little decision probably cost them one more kill there. And XCT TP down to the lane, got jumped by the Slark, and then just used his TP scroll to TP back to base. Anyway, so a bit weird from him.
Yeah, rather unfortunate. He is working towards a Midas now. Does have those phase boots up like we talked about, Gloves of Haste, and just pulling up that gold for the recipe. So pretty standard things coming out of the Nature's Prophet. And he's actually the last hit leader right now by a pretty large margin, even though Slark can do a bit of burst damage to him. He is getting way out CS, 39 compared to the 23 of the Murloc down here in the bottom lane. Mid lane, pretty even in terms of last hits, but of course TA did take that spill. 1-2-1 on the Viper is working towards Mech, and he's pretty darn close. About 250 gold off the recipe, and as the two core pieces there already sitting in that safety deposit box. TA's got her phase boots, but not much else other than that.
Yeah, the TA is not necessarily struggling, I would say, but definitely not snowballing.
Yeah.
And I guess the one other thing I don't want to go back to talking about this lane, but I don't know if the Nature's Prophet ferried down more regen after he saw that it was a 1v1. Or if that wasn't the case, then the Slark probably misplayed the lane a little bit. He had so much more regen than the Prophet, and I didn't really see him getting aggressive at all. And as soon as he burned through like the one shared tango that the Prophet had, I think he could have secured himself some more CS, but it looked like he was playing it pretty defensively. But
Yeah.
it's probably going to be a minor thing overall. The supports have now made their way down to bot, and Dreamy and Super actually looking for a smoke. All of this movement around the map is slowing down the Visage's levels quite a bit, so well, hopefully for their sake this smoke pays off, but it looks like it's not really going to.
Yeah, there's a 5-man rotation from HGT towards the top lane, so DT will be unsuccessful in their gank. They will ping out this tower, and perhaps they can get an early tier 1 tower kill, but HGT will be right there with the response. Nature's Prophet porting into the trees here, and looking for a kill perhaps on the Centaur. They won't find it straight away, but Treants come out. Nature's Prophet is level 8, so this should be a pretty easy tower push. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, they're chipping away at it, but DT have the pushing disadvantage by far. And, yeah, they'll lose this race. If HGT wanted to defend, they do have a glyph they could port down, and I think they can hold this tower. Yep, and they'll do just that. 2 ports coming into the tier 1. Rubik already ported to the tier 2. Viper looking for a Viper strike on this Visage. Well, he won't find the Viper strike, but we'll get off an auto attack. There's the tornado from the Invoker. EMP, Super in big trouble. Nature's Prophet will finish him off with a Wrath of Nature from across the map. XDD on the other side of the trees could get initiated on, but nope, they won't have eyes on him. And that's where it will end. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Ancient Apparition taking a lot of damage from TA, but will play some Ring Around the Rosie and does survive to tell the tale. Then meanwhile, in the top, Nature's Prophet, he's still pushing. This tier 2 tower goes down to about half health, forces out the glyph, and he will retreat.
So, big win for HGT there. For sure. Get the tower, they defend the tower. The pushing into Wrath of Nature is always just such an obnoxious thing to do. And HGT, I think they even stuffed their TP order a little bit there, but was still fine, managed to pick up the kill on the Visage. And well, DT, I think, are just probably going to get 5-man from this point. The Slark is really reliant on pickoffs and less than impressive in teamfights, especially with the farm that he has. And that means HGT can just Pogo from lane to lane.
But here we go. Centaur goes straight in. Starts off with the hoof stomp. Mechs pop, but it won't be enough to save the Nature's Prophet. Viper stands his ground. That'll be a dead Centaur. Tornado flies, and DT, they've still got 3 alive, but they're all getting pretty low. This Viper is going to start to hit hard. Air in big trouble. One more auto attack ought to do it. The Viper won't find it, but this tower is destined to fall. It ends as a 1-for-1, and DT, they get lucky. A couple of their heroes escape with very few hit points to spare.
And that was a 1-for-1 trade with a tower going to HGT in a 3v5. Like, the Ancient Apparition and the Rubik were nowhere to be found. So, things are looking really good for them. And
Well,
DT...
To be fair, the Shadow Demon wasn't down there either.
Oh, yeah, true.
So it was a 3v4, but yeah, point well taken.
Yeah.
Yeah, so HGT, they're actually in really great shape here. They've got about a 5,000 gold lead, only about a 500 experience lead, but these early towers are really paying off here.
Stampede top, XTT.
Oh, yep. Will they have enough to secure this kill, though? It doesn't look like it. They may turn it around. Sprout comes out on in July, TP in from the Viper. They've got a couple of right clicks coming. He'll just try and TP home, and I think he'll make it. Yep, just not quite enough damage. No Viper strike available. And Rubik getting into the party just a bit too late to interrupt with that telekinesis. But still, DT, they were the aggressors there, so further showing us how HGT have the edge. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Dreamy U in big trouble. He'll get off the defensive disruption. That'll be enough to juke the EMP. And will it be enough to survive? That one last auto attack from the Invoker will be there. Secures the kill, and that makes it 5-3 here at the 12-minute mark.
Another tower on the chopping block for HGT. DT not really in position to defend at all, so it looks like this one's going to be forfeit as well. Gold lead continues to get worse and worse and worse, and
Radiant's middle tower has
I don't know what they can do. They're not even really, they can't even really take a team fight at the moment. The TA still needs farm. They still need a Blink Dagger on the Centaur, really, and the Slark is just kind of dirt poor. He's got a bunch of little items, but nothing really too substantial at the moment.
At this point, you would hope that he'd be working towards a Shadow Blade, maybe semi-close to it. We'll see him almost get engaged upon as he scouts out the enemies inbound. He'll just about face, head back to safety because, well, he just can't really do too much. I haven't seen him even really leave the lane or try and set up ganks. And I don't know. Just not what you hope for out of a Slark. Visage will finally hit level 6 at the 13-minute mark. Wow, that experience. Well, actually, HGT are not really that experienced on their supports either. Rubik and Ancient Apparition both level 6, and Ancient Apparition will get it just now as he walks by a neutral cam. So the supports are actually kind of on point, which is a little bit surprising.
Yeah, all the supports are well, fairly even. You would, I think, expect HGT supports to be slightly better off just because they've had some farm in lanes, while the DT supports have been kind of sticking with the Centaur for the most part, but it evens out overall. I think there has been some 5-manning from HGT in the last 2 minutes as well, and
Yeah.
well, they're going to go for a smoke gank, look to get just another tower. DT still all spread out all over the map, and well, let's see.
We'll see if they can get this Visage. Their smoke will actually go the other way. They rotate towards mid, and oh no, Super, he's going to walk right into him. TA Trap comes down, but won't do much. Telekinesis back, and that's a dead Visage. They will press forward. XDD, nothing the Slark can do, and he'll just run away. That's been pretty much the name of the game for Slark this game. About face and run. He is 0-0-1 at the 14-minute mark.
And looks like they might just give this away to secure the Blink Dagger on the Centaur. There's no chance that the Centaur trades for this tier 1 top because there's Ice Blast and Wrath, but Dream EU, bye-bye.
He just gets obliterated there. Invoker secures the kill, and yeah, you're certainly right. Glyph comes out for HGT. There's no way that top tower will fall. Meanwhile, in the mid, they almost knock it down. Ports come back to save it. They will keep the tower intact. They finish off the tier 2 down bottom, so another big win for HGT. And there you go, they secure that deny in the mid lane. However, Centaur does now have his Blink Dagger, so maybe this will be the item that can allow DT to grab a bit of momentum here and start turning this game around. They have a pretty long ways to go. 7,500 gold, 1,500 experience, but Blink on the Centaur is definitely a big jump.
Yeah. Gives you a big jump as well.
Yeah, literally and figuratively.
But yeah, this is pretty much the only timing they have to work with. So this next this next smoke needs to work out fantastically. And well, hearts get together. They're all standing around in the pit. There's some nicely clumped up heroes. I can see at least a 4-man stomp, but looks like DT just not really. Okay, I think they've worked it out now. Nobody's in the lanes, but they might be a little bit too late.
Yeah, they are smoked up though. Visage Familiar will fly over, and he'll see Roshan just finally get finished off. Stun comes out. And Aegis, nope, doesn't get denied. Invoker just picks it up, and it will be an uncontested Roach going the way of HGT. So, unfortunate for DT. They will station about the high ground, though, looking to spring a trap onto HGT. Not so sure they'll find it. Up top, Kaka will go into Ghost Walk as Air pressures this tier 1 tower. Rotation coming forward from Dreamtime. I think Invoker is a little bit wise to it. Nature's Prophet will be teleporting up top. Invoker does have the Orchid online, uses it on TA. There's the blink forward from In July. Hoof Stomp, Double Edge, XTT in big trouble. Slark joining the party as well. That'll be the end of the Aegis. Nature's Prophet getting picked off, but they take the Centaur down with him. Now the rest of DT, they will be forced to back out. Kaka's back alive. Maybe he can throw a Tornado here and set something up. Nope. Another 10 seconds until it comes off cooldown. XDDL port out, Super ports out. There's the Tornado. That will be a dead Visage. So another great exchange for HGT. Tower gets denied, and they make a 1-for-2 exchange.
Unfortunate that none of the Viper, the Rubik, and the AA were carrying TP scrolls there. Could have probably been a slightly better fight, but like you said, still a very favorable trade.
They may transition into a tier 2 tower kill as well.
And DT, well, they've got everybody alive, but their team fight is still just not looking that good. And fighting in anything remotely resembling a choke point against Quasvex Invoker is just a nightmare.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, Quas Exort has its place, but Quasvex is just so irritating to deal with. We'll see him go ahead and engage onto the Centaur here. Orchid comes out, Ice Blast connects from across the map, and Invoker adds another easy kill to the scoreboard. That's 10-4 here at the 17-minute mark, and DT are in even worse trouble. TA trying to make the escape, will get sprouted, just TP's home. Nice play from Air, does survive. Meanwhile, down bottom, XDD secures this tower kill. Will pounce over the trees, looking to port out. Tornado, oh, they don't need it. They've got the Orchid as well as the Cold Snap. And now Slark is in trouble. XTT will finish him off with a couple of those Nature's Prophet auto attacks. And that's a Necro Book level 3.
I do think you have to admire DT trying to make whatever plays they have available, pushing down that tier 1, a little bit of extra gold in their pockets, but there's just nothing really coming up that's going to start turning these fights unless they can manage to get to some BKBs. But I think they're just so far away right now. Templar Assassin is getting close-ish. The Slark's going for a Shadow Blade instead, so he's just not going to have it. I think he's hoping to get a few more pickoffs, but with only one outer tower left on the map for DT, I don't think pickoffs are going to be much of a reality. Hearts Get Together are likely just going to 5-man this out. They might wait around for one more Aegis before breaking up onto the high grounds, just because they can farm, you know, 3/4 of the map that they've got under control. But,
yeah, I mean, the Shadow Blade is now out for Slark, but unfortunately Necro 3 is already complete for the Nature's Prophet, so that invisibility edge that he would have had, had that been a better timed Shadow Blade, is now pretty much gone. XTT will just be able to reveal him, and he's just so much less scary. Now the Viper has enough gold to finish off his Ag Scepter. There's the Staff of Wizardry and Blade of Alacrity sitting in the bank at home. So Viper Strike now on that ultra short cooldown. Things will get even more difficult for DT. Meanwhile, up top, Kaka and Air. Looks like they could go blow for blow here. Kaka will initiate with Orchid. Tornado. There's the Cold Snap. Air does have a TP scroll, but now Rubik's inbound. And instead of taking the TA, they will just go for a counter ward instead. And it looks like another engage is breaking out. 2 engages at once. Air will get caught by the telekinesis. He'll drop. And meanwhile, on the other side of the jungle, Ancient Apparition, he'll actually fall to the familiars. Nature's Prophet TP's right in the middle of him. Sprout out onto the Visage. And this should be a kill going the way of XTT. Yes, indeed it will. Visage Familiars get off a few stuns, but don't do much in keeping the undead bird alive. The rest of the team ports out. Dreamy U, the one last to go, but he will make it. Visage Familiars may get cleaned up here. CSMJ will grab a nice 100 gold bounty, but this other familiar, I think, will survive, at least for now.
Oh, can he get the courier?
Courier scouting it out. Visage Familiar? Oh.
Okay, not... up. Okay, no, ZSMJ's got it.
There you go.
With those mad refraction right clicks.
Yep, mad force staff skills as well. XDD could be in some trouble here in the bottom. He'll get Orchided, Ice Blast, Tornado, and that's a dead Slark. Oh boy, HGT just adding insult to injury at this point, continuing to rack up kills across the map. 12,000 gold, 7,500 experience or so. There's a Necrobook out on the Invoker. DT are very quickly running out of options here, base Kip.
Yeah, and even if they get their BKBs, I don't know if it's going to start turning the fights. I mean, it'll help against the Invoker for sure, but the Viper is still just going to be such a huge problem with the Viper Strike at all times. And, well, Air gets jumped.
Yeah.
He tries for the old TP out, but there's going to be a Tornado.
Oh boy, now he is certainly going to fall. Ice Blast will be on the mark. This Ancient Apparition has really been doing well with his ults. That was not the easiest one to land, and still was able to nail the TA to secure that kill. And it looks like HGT, they'll just go straight up to mid. They won't even wait for that next Roche, like you mentioned. Gem out on the Invoker. And, I mean, what's stopping him here? Viper Strike comes out onto the Visage straight away. XDD pounces in, does connect with the leash onto the Viper. And he will get Orchided, but manages to get the ult off straight away. Does survive. There's the Glyph, but this tier 3 tower already taking heavy damage. And this certainly will be a tier 3 tower kill, probably Rax. TA still the only one in the grave, but all 4 members of DT just getting completely zoned out, and HGT. They're at a high threshold of HP, more Treants come out, and this will be a dead melee Rax.
Yeah, I wonder if they wish they'd banned the Invoker.
Probably. But he's not even the worst of their troubles. This Viper is also giving them a run for their money. And the Nature's Prophet, I mean, this is sort of a team effort from HGT. Sure, the Invoker's been that tempo controller, setting up a lot of these kills, interrupting the TPs, but HGT just did well across the board. Viper won mid, Nature's Prophet won bottom, and up top was kind of a break-even, which eventually turned into a win for HGT. So they really just dominated that laning phase.
Yeah, HGT kind of cornered them a little bit with that last pick, Viper. I mean, the way that I was thinking, and I guess the way that DT were thinking as well, is that, oh yeah, Invoker, he's just going to be mid. Like, no two ways about it. But you can, in a pinch, try lane the Invoker to get him away from a bad matchup against the TA. And as we saw, that turned what was, in DT's head, a one lane, okay, TA versus Invoker, that's at least even, into an absolute disaster. But at that point, they were, it looked like they were already pretty much committed to their lanes. I think they could have responded a little bit earlier and just left the Centaur where he was and started roaming their supports, similar to what HGT did, since the support just kind of sat around top, twiddling their thumbs, not getting any kills. But I don't know if it would have changed things too much. The Prophet is definitely very gankable though.
Yeah, certainly so. And they put absolutely no pressure his way. He's got 4,000 gold to play around with right now. Hasn't picked up anything else past that Necro Book level 3. But, oh, there you go. He'll just grab a complete BKB in one fell swoop. And now he is ready to rejoin the battle. He'll TP down. And looks like HGT, they want to keep the pressure on. They will not wait for Roche, but this will be a very fast Roche respawn. Only 10 seconds after the initial timer. So they could actually just back up for Roche and finish him off. But of course, they're not privy to it. They won't have it scattered out, and they will continue pressing forward. Looks like they will do some split pushing. Nature's Prophet up top, and the remaining 4 down bottom.
Yeah, and they can go and grab a little bit of farm, finish up the Necro 3 on the Invoker. AA is not going to have anything anytime soon. Viper, they could choose to wait around for him to grab either this Heaven's Halberd or the BKB, whichever it's going to be. But yeah, I think if they scout out Roshan, then they should just be able to quite easily go high ground. Or never mind, just looks like straight up into the high ground regardless. DT realizing that they can't let HGT siege because mid lane's pushing in. Prophet's going to keep the top lane pushed in, and they've got 4 heroes bot. So this is a really smart smoke round. But let's see how many kills it gets. HGT are very far ahead.
Oh, but they ping it out. I think they know. There's the blink forward from In July. He'll get Orchided straight away. Centaur will be the first to fall, but it will also cost them their Ancient Apparition. Now Air, BKB on, trying to land the right clicks. Jimayu does end up getting stunned, and he will fall. It is a 2 for 2, though. Rubik fell in the fray. Now the TA, without refraction, will get dropped. XCD comes forward, connects with the pounce onto Kaka, but just can't survive the damage. His ultimate will expire, and now this Slark is in big trouble. They also picked up the remaining members, and it ends as a 2 for 5. DT get completely cleaned up. Buyback status is negative. Only Shadow Demon and the Slark can buy back here, and I don't think they can do too much to defend this incoming push.
Yeah, some sick play from XDT there. Got a really nice ground sprout on the BKB TA, and also mana burned the Slark right as he came out of his ultimate so he couldn't pounce away. So nicely done by him. And well, buybacks from DT, but I don't know if it's going to be able to repel anything, and there's already an Ice Blast flying in as well.
And it will connect with 2 and a familiar. Tier 3 tower falls, and DT just such a defensive posture here. They know that they can't take a fight. Viper Strike comes out onto the Shadow Demon. He will get a defensive disruption off. That'll keep him alive, but further zones him out. Tornado flies. Melee racks go down. Ranged racks will fall shortly after. And, wow, Invoker will finish off the Shadow Demon from afar. Jesus.
Radiant's bottom barracks has
Well,
fallen.
that's the second lane of racks down, and I think it's just a matter of time at this point. DT down by 20,000 gold, 14,000 experience. HGT will back up, maybe secure Roche, buy some more items, just gear up for whatever their heart desires. And, oh, there you go. XTT will pour it into the pit, so they will secure Roche for the second time. And actually a Blink Dagger up on this Nature's Prophet now. XTT having some fun with it.
Yeah, I think you're at the point where you're like, I'm gonna buy whatever I damn well please. And yeah, okay, so XDD's had enough of that, gonna call the GG. They might have an opportunity to get some revenge in the ECL a little bit later, so yeah, I guess we'll have to keep an eye out for that one. But very nicely played by HGT, and I think DT little bit trapped by their draft and then not adjusting afterwards either. They called their lanes, they stuck with those lanes, and those were that was a losing hand. Basically, the tri lane was even, mid lane was a win for Viper, bottom lane turned out to be a win for the Prophet, even though I think it should have been a little bit more even, and from there, couldn't really accomplish too much.
So hopefully my echo is fixed here. I guess we'll find out in 2 minutes. I think I muted the right thing, but yeah, the Viper and the Invoker just completely ran amok. Viper ended that game 5-0-7, and Invoker 8-0-9. So that shows just how little pressure was put on the HGT cores. It was only the supports that got picked off. So, well, pretty convincing one for HGT in our first game of the night. Coming up next will be NE versus LGD. One more best of one, so we're at that halfway point, and it will be starting in just about 15 minutes. So we'll have a pretty short break here, and then Basecamp and I will be returning for our second match of the night. So you got a short little break here, guys, and then more Dota 2 action will be coming your way. Whoops. Screen is it?